I know it's showtime when I see Dana in the chat yelling TikTok Shives at me. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Glad you could make it. Um, as always, I will be beginning the show and spending probably the first hour of it or so answering questions that were submitted ahead of time by my wonderful Patreon patrons and channel members. So if any of you watching have something that you want me to talk about or something that you want me to pay attention to in the live chat, especially if you were planning on being generous and tossing in a super chat or something like that, please, if at all possible, hold off until I get through the patron and member questions, and then I will spend the rest of the show with my full attention on the live chat. So, with all that being said, let's begin, shall we? Let's start with the first of the patron and member questions. And the first one comes to us from Charlie Deal, who says, "Hey, Steve, I love your work." Good start, Charlie. Please address the current feeling that there was some kind of criminality going on in counting the votes. Thanks. I have not seen any actual evidence of that. I know that there were a lot of people in the aftermath of the election, because the result was very, very unwelcome and was maybe a surprise to some people. There was a feeling, as you say in your question, a feeling that something must have gone wrong, that, well, there are votes missing, et cetera, et cetera. We are, what, a month and a half past election day now. I've seen no evidence. I've heard of no evidence of any actual voter fraud, voter tampering, miscounts. There's no evidence that the election was stolen from us or anything like that. So my feeling on it, my way of addressing it is to say that I don't care about whether or not people have a feeling. I care about what's the evidence say. Is there evidence that there was criminality in the counting of the votes? If there is, I would love to see it, and I would love to see something done about it. But I don't think there is. And without evidence of wrongdoing, if you're just saying, well, I just know something must have happened, I just have a feeling that something wrong must have gone on, that's conspiracy theorist thinking. And it's something to be avoided, whether it's someone from the conservative side or someone from the progressive side. Let's not do that. You know, that's my feeling on it. The applauding ally. So I know your feelings on Lower Decks. But what did you think of episode 9, if you've seen it? I won't spoil it here, but I literally cried happy tears due to a certain pairing in the show, as it felt like 20 to 30 years of subtext finally paying off as much as they could. The other ensemble was amazing as well. I just wish they had more episodes or seasons. P.S. Are you on TikTok? I saw a TikTok of your content on there, but unsure if they uploaded it for views or what. No, I'm not on TikTok, so whoever has been uploading my stuff on TikTok is a thief. I have no idea. I don't normally pay attention to TikTok. Yeah, I saw that episode of Lower Decks. I didn't like it. It didn't make me laugh. It made me roll my eyes several times. It made me glad that the show was ending. Or back then the show was ending. Now the show is over. So, no, it got on my nerves because it's fanboy masturbation. That's what the show has. You know, I mean, it was never that many notches above it to begin with, but it has completely descended to that level these past few seasons, where it's just jerk off fanboy stuff. And if the pairing you're referring to, if seeing a alternate reality version of that on a Star Trek show meant something to you, then I think that's great. It didn't mean anything to me because I'm happy with what we got from those characters on the shows, and I have no particular emotional investment in anything more than that. I don't have a problem with other people who do, and I mean, if you enjoyed it, then I think that's great. I'm glad you enjoyed it. But it didn't do anything for me, and the rest of the show didn't really do anything for me other than annoy me. You know what would have made me like that particular pairing that you're referring to? And I'm honoring the spirit of your question and not spoiling anything, but what would have made me like it even better if it was fucking funny. If they bothered to write funny jokes about it. If they bothered to take advantage of a potentially comedic situation and write actual funny jokes. I know Fucking amazing. What a concept. Adam Winkleman, would you rather fight 20 lobster-sized horses or one horse-sized lobster? Oh, 20 lobster-sized horses. Easy. Because you could just stomp them and break their little backs. Yeah, I would easily. I don't know if I could take a horse-sized lobster. A horse, that's a big lobster. A horse-sized lobster would, I mean, I'd either have to run away or it would kill me. I don't know what I would do against a horse-sized lobster, but 20 lobster-sized horses, you could fuck those up in a couple of minutes. Smashy, smashy, smashy. Just stomp them. Break their little backs, break their little necks, stomp them and crush their little skulls. End of fight. You know? Easy. And then you sell the meat to a French restaurant. Andrew Michael, did you see the latest episode of Lower Decks? At the time of writing, season 5, episode 9, though I suspect episode 10 may be similar. I loved it to bits, but I like all Lower Decks because my heart isn't as dead as a frozen coal. Ah, touche. Anyway, Fisher Quest felt specifically like if someone turned your favorite Patreon question into an episode, i.e., what would be your ideal crew? The Lower Decks cast and crew made an episode that could have been titled, Fuck You, Shives. How does it feel knowing they made an episode specifically with you in mind? Love you, buddy. I mean, if I'm going to be that conceited and assume that, you know, the producers of that show made an episode with the idea of sending a fuck you to me, I mean, they've been doing that for several years. Like the entire show has been that. So, you know, I don't take that one any more personally than I take any of the other shit that they've done. No, I never really thought of it in those terms, but you're right. It does kind of resemble that, you know, that question of if you could pick a crew member from any series and make your ideal crew. I didn't think of it as I was watching it. But yeah, it is a lot like that. And, you know, given the general creative level at which the show was pitched, now that I make that connection, it's not surprising at all. David Colby is transmitting this question from an off-the-grid black site. Ooh. Deep Space Nine is the eclipse phase of the Star Trek universe. An eclipse phase is the period in the spreading of a virus where a cell is infected but does not appear to be. But the virus is in there, growing. And that virus is Section 31, realism, hard men making hard choices, hardly. And it sucks, man. It fucking sucks. The realpolitik murderous institution that is the modern intelligence state demands that we accept their bloody-handed logic to justify their bloated existence while it continually creates all the problems it purports to fix. Like, man, remember how we fucking armed Al-Qaeda? Yeah, the Federation absolutely needs that gaggle of dumb fuck psychotics around. I want just one fucking writer in the writing staff to read Lenin. Just fucking one, please. Pick up Imperialism by Lenin and read it. Then you're allowed to write Star Trek. What say you on Section 31? I mean, I think I've mentioned it before. It's not my favorite idea in the franchise, not because I have any sort of objection to it existing. I think I regard the Federation as an allegory for the United States, or maybe Western civilization more broadly, if you don't like specifically the United States. But Star Trek is produced first and foremost for an American audience. And it was created and it's mostly made by American artists. So I consider the Federation to be an allegory for the United States, first and foremost. The United States has, as you mentioned, a very large, very insidious, very heavy-handed in terms of the affairs of certain other countries, intelligence apparatus. That's a part of our country. And if Star Trek is going to make political commentary, and if Star Trek is going to make political commentary about American culture, which it always has, and I hope it always will, then that is fair game. And not only is it fair game, it's important to tell stories about that kind of thing because it's part of our society and it's a part of our government that a lot of us are not super happy about and would like to see reformed and would like to maybe someday get to a point in the affairs of the world where such organizations are not so prominent and maybe they're not even considered necessary anymore. Like that's an aspirational thing. But while it's here, I think it's fair game for a show like Star Trek that tells the kinds of stories that it likes to tell to have an allegory for that they can use for storytelling. So I don't have an objection to it being there, like as a part of Star Trek, but it's not my favorite thing because, you know, like once you've told, unless you have like a really, if you, it's kind of like, you know, certain villains, certain alien species, unless you have like a really, really good story, if you have a really, really good idea that involves bringing back Section 31, then yeah, go for it. But I don't feel like Section 31 should be brought back or referenced or put front and center just for the sake of it. Because for its own sake, I don't think it's all that interesting. But if you have a great idea for a story, especially for a story that would be a really good like political satire or political allegory or, you know, really sharp social commentary type of thing, yeah, let's see it. And Section 31 is there and it can be used for that purpose. But in terms of like, you know, am I interested in seeing more of Section 31 just for the sake of it? No. I'm curious about the movie. I'm very curious to see what the movie is like, for a lot of reasons. But generally speaking, am I someone who's like super interested in learning more about Section 31 or seeing more Section 31 stuff? Not really, not unless there's like a really interesting angle attached. John Burns. So United Healthcare is the worst corporation denying claims, but is it possible that a far worse situation is happening at the other side of the relationship between UHC and their clients? Remember the first decade when subprime loans were all the rage? The companies were targeting certain types of loans, knowing that when, not if, the rates rose, leading to defaults, this would lead to more profit. I know we're looking at the denials end. What about taking that client on in the first place? Plus, what if they get referrals? Do doctors refer clients to these companies? The US has had judges who would get kickbacks for sentencing teens to jail. If that, why not this? Well, let me try to understand what I think you're asking. Taking that client on in the first place. After the reforms in our healthcare system that were a part of the Affordable Care Act, colloquially known as Obamacare, it became much more difficult for insurance companies to refuse to take on clients. One of the major reforms of the Affordable Care Act was designed to make it easier for people who don't have health insurance to get it and make it more difficult for health insurance companies to deny people the right to purchase a policy with them or to kick people off of their coverage if they are already on it and they've been keeping up with their payments. So, and by the way, I think that's a good thing. I mean, our health insurance system as it is supremely fucked up, and it should not be the way it is. It should not be built around people having to pay for private health insurance. But given the fact that it is, if that is the situation, it's better to have that private health insurance be easier and more affordable for people to get, and for the private insurance companies themselves to have a much harder time kicking people off or refusing to cover people in the first place. So the whole denying clients thing, it's not as up to UHC as you might think it is. I'm sure that they can still refuse. There are still conditions where they can refuse to grant coverage to somebody, but it's not nearly as easy as it used to be. And like I said, I mean, given the fact that we still have the fucked up system that we have, I think that's a good thing. So, you know, I mean, UHC makes enough money, right? If they need to pay out some claims for sick people that get coverage with them, I don't really feel too bad. They've got the money. They can afford it. Stephen G. Clenard. Hey, Steve. In the 1960s, philosopher Philippa Foot posed the trolley problem, a type of thought experiment wherein a runaway trolley would crush innocent pedestrians on one of two tracks, with the victims determined by the action or inaction of the switchman, the experiment's subject, who neither asked for this sort of responsibility nor received any sort of on-the-imaginary job training nor post-traumatic counseling. It should be noted that urban trolley systems historically had excellent safety records, with few recorded instances of runaway trolley incidents resulting in civilian death. particularly when compared to other public transport systems, such as buses or airport conveyor belts, sidewalks, which are a fucking menace. In any case, the late mid-century saw a sharp decline in urban light rail. So, why are philosophers such assholes? See you in hell. I think it's because they spend so much time hanging out with other philosophers. I think it's like a resonance effect. It's so they echo each other's assholish tendencies, and there you go. So yeah, just don't. If you are a philosopher, don't talk to other philosophers any more often than you absolutely have to, or you might end up, inadvertently contributing to the decline of light rail, a relatively safe and convenient form of public transportation that sadly has gone by the wayside. And also, I believe cleaner as well. Cleaner for the environment. General Contact Unit Problem Child. How much should we condemn the McDonald's worker who turned in Luigi Mangione? Personally, I wouldn't have turned him in for any amount of money because you can't buy being able to look in the mirror. However, it feels like a step too far to demand that other people feel the same way. Even though I personally think he deserved to get away, I also believe there shouldn't be a, well, that dude really had it coming exception to laws against extrajudicial vigilante murder. I don't think it's unreasonable to think that if someone shoots a person in public, it's okay to turn them in regardless of their motive. As for the reward, I also feel weird condemning someone who works at McDonald's for wanting a bit of extra money. Like, for all we know, they're trying to support a family on a fast food worker's salary. Oh, no, doing it for the money to me is the most understandable and permissible reason to do it. No, I completely agree. If it was a McDonald's employee, as I said in my video on the subject, which was largely tongue-in-cheek, but I mean, part of what I said there, I do genuinely mean, if the person who turned him in was a McDonald's employee and they're looking at potentially collecting $60,000 of reward money. Well, if you work at McDonald's, you probably need $60,000. Like $60,000 for you is potentially a life-changing amount of money. So that's one thing that I would definitely not fault the person who snitched him out on. Like if the person who snitched on Luigi Mangione turns out to be someone who is a working poor person or a working class person, and their excuse is, you know what, I don't even look, it was a $60,000 reward and I need the money. You know what? Okay. Because the truth is he was going to get caught eventually anyway. A lot of people had this fantasy of like, oh, maybe he'll just get away with it. He was never going to get away with it. He was always going to get caught eventually. Somebody was going to turn him in at some point. I don't necessarily have very warm, fuzzy feelings about the person who turned him in. Like you, if I saw him out in public while he was still on the run, I would not have turned him in. I would not have helped the cops catch him. But at the same time, eventually he was going to get caught. He was not going to get away with it forever and probably not going to get away with it for very long. So while I don't approve and I don't celebrate the person who ratted him out, I don't hate them. I don't condemn them, especially if they were doing it for the money and they're in a situation where they need the money. It's tough out there, folks. So no, I'm not like extra pissed off at the person who turned him in. But like you, I would also like to believe that I would not have turned him in, and I really don't think I would have. At least not for 60 grand. They would have had that. Andy Lawler looks around at the shit show, bangs forehead on the wall. Fuck, bang, fuck, bang, fuck. Yep, I'm sensing a pattern. Hey, Steve, if you had the chance to fly to space, in what existing or historical spacecraft would you choose for your... Oh, what a great question. Would you choose for your mission? American, Soviet, Russian, Chinese, or private? They're all on the table for this hypothetical flight, except that goddamn space cock from Amazon. Fuck that thing. In my lifetime, the Apollo spacecraft, Skylab missions, and Apollo-Soyuz, and the shuttle fleet were the only American vehicles that flew, while the Soviets, Russians have been using the Soyuz workhorse. The Chinese Shenzhou is basically a Soyuz M forever. Thus, I'm partial to the shuttle. Endeavour is my favorite real-world spacecraft. So, what would be your bird of choice to carry you into the final frontier? Thanks, and have a great weekend, everybody. I would probably also pick a space shuttle. My favorite space shuttle when I was growing up, and I will freely admit this was 100% because of the movie Space Camp, but my favorite shuttle was Atlantis. So I would probably choose to fly on the space shuttle Atlantis, but I also love the 60s space programs, and being somewhat of a solitary person, I feel a little bit of an attraction to the Mercury capsule. I mean, you're basically spam in a can. There's not a whole lot of flying involved. Um, but you can control the capsule a little bit. And there's just something, those were the first American astronauts. There's just a great deal of romance about the Mercury program to me. Like, those were all of the astronauts in the 60s were pioneers, because they kept moving the horizon back further and further until they finally got to the moon. So they were all pioneers. But the Mercury astronauts were the first they were the pioneers among pioneers. They were the first Americans to go into space at all. And yes, there had been some Soviet cosmonauts that got there before them, but you're still talking about just a handful of people that got up there before the Mercury astronauts started flying. So if not the shuttle Atlantis, then maybe a Mercury capsule. Yeah. On a Redstone or an Atlas? An Atlas, on an Atlas rocket. Joe goes over. Although it's tempting to say Mercury Redstone because that's what Alan Shepard flew on, and Alan Shepard is my favorite astronaut. But the Atlas got you higher and got you into Earth orbit. And if you're going to go, you might as well at least do an orbit. So I'll go with the Atlas. Anyway, Joe goes over. I should soon be able to purchase a dedicated camera for my YouTube channel instead of using my smartphone. While it has done the job well, it has its limitations, particularly how it overheats during 4K recording. Unfortunately, I'm finding that plenty of expensive 4K Ultra HD cameras have that same issue, getting too hot and shutting down after 30 to 40 minutes. My question for you is this: what is the main camera that you use? Do you record in 4K UHD? Does it come with built-in cooling? Are you able to use it reliably for hours at a time? Are you happy with it? Or like me, are you limited to small bursts of recording, stopping every half hour to allow the unit to cool down? I'd hate to shell out a few $1,000s and still be in the same boat I'm in now. I just realized I've asked several questions. Ultimately, I'm just looking for camera advice from someone with experience doing professionally what I'm currently doing only semi-professionally. My primary camera is a Canon 70D, which is no longer state of the art. It doesn't record in 4K. It records in 1080. I have mused over the years of upgrading to a newer camera that can record in 4K, and I'm sure I will at some point. But I'm happy with the Canon 70D that I have right now. It doesn't overheat, but that's because a Canon 70D is classified not as a camcorder, but as a like a photographic camera. It's a digital camera that can record video, as opposed to a camcorder that is designed and marketed specifically for recording video. Because of that, and that's like a regulatory thing, the Canon 70D can only record 30 minutes of video at a time. So it stops recording automatically after 30 minutes, whether it overheats or not. I have never known it to overheat. I have never noticed it having that problem. I don't think that's an issue with it. But then again, it automatically stops recording after 30 minutes. So I don't know what it would do if it were recording for longer than that. Maybe it would overheat after, let's say, 40 minutes. I honestly have no idea. But no, that's never been an issue for me, because I've just gotten used to only recording in a maximum of 30-minute increments. And the way I work, that's not an issue. Like, I don't think I would ever need, I don't think I've ever done a video where I have felt limited by the fact that I can only record 30 minutes continuously. Like, that's plenty of time for what I do. So, I can just say that. But no, I either use the Canon 70D, or for some of these sort of off the cuff videos that I shoot during the week, that aren't fully scripted, and those are usually my political videos. I use my phone as well. This is a Samsung Galaxy. I use the camera on it, and it works just fine for relatively simple videos where it's just me sharing my off the cuff thoughts about whatever. And I haven't noticed it overheating either. I've recorded with it because it can record longer than 30 minutes. Occasionally, if I'm getting a little long-winded and just letting the camera run and knowing I'm going to cut most of this shit out when I edit it, I have let it has recorded for longer than 30 minutes, and I've never noticed an overheating issue. So I don't know. Like the camera, my main camera is an older camera that doesn't have a reheating issue, an overheating issue, and my other camera that I use is the one in my phone, and it doesn't have an overheating issue either. So I don't really know what else I can tell you. I apologize for not having better advice. JDY, hey Steve, do you have any plans to do a video on the epilogue at the end of Superman and Lois? If not, what did you think? I'm reminded of the ending of Discovery, and I don't think that's a compliment. I might rant in the comments if you do a video, but I'll hold off here. At least no sentient computers were sentenced to 1,000 years in solitary confinement for timey-wimey nonsense. I liked the Superman and Lois finale, and I liked the epilogue. I don't have any plans right now to do a video specifically about that. So feel free to rant in the comments to this if you want. I thought it was good, but I will admit that it was a little easy. Because they chose to do what they did for the ending, because they chose to end it the way they did, that was pretty much a guaranteed home run. I mean, that sort of subject matter, and I'll try not to spoil anything for anybody who hasn't watched it. But when you decide to end your story the way they ended it, I mean, at least with people like me who are fans of the show and have an investment in those characters because we have been watching and enjoying the show up to that point, if you decide to do what they did for the final act of the final episode, that's pretty much a can't miss proposition. Like, they didn't really take any chances, which I thought was fine. They went for a more heartfelt direction, and it was definitely that. And it was definitely earnest and sincere, and it definitely tried to say something meaningful about life. And I appreciated it. I thought it was well done, but it was not a big swing. It was a big swing emotionally, but it wasn't a big swing creatively. It was, pretty much a guaranteed home run. So, I mean, I guess I can fault it for that. Maybe they could have been a little more ambitious in terms of how they got there, or how they could have found a way to communicate a similar message or evoke similar feelings in a slightly more creatively challenging way. But that's what they did. So, I mean, I didn't have a huge problem with it, and I liked it a lot better than Discovery's last episode. I mean, as someone who was, for the most part, a big fan of Discovery, despite its many imperfections, I was disappointed in the ending of Discovery, at least the very ending, and some of the stuff leading up to it as well, just because I felt like it was a good enough show and it deserved a better ending than that. And I didn't feel that way about Superman and Lois. I thought the ending of Superman and Lois was satisfying to me. So, but anyway, please rant away if you need to. Some random geek, the radical anarchist that agrees that I mutually frustrate progressives. So last time I talked about the viewer I have that consumes 6 750 milliliter bottles of 100 proof alcohol a week. Now, he doesn't drink while at work or driving, but they do drink while at home, including at 1 p.m. on a Sunday because it's their day off. So they do day drinking too. But then I remember they mention they have medication that they take. They hate pills, but still take them. This got me thinking, wouldn't that much alcohol consumption affect one's medication? To which I asked my viewer, wait a minute, does your doctor know about how much alcohol you consume? You see a heart specialist, don't you? They don't tell their doctors about their alcohol habit. I'm not lying, they say. They don't ask me. But isn't lying by omission still lying? Why would I tell them and get a lecture I know I will get? I know they will say I should stop or cut down, so why bother? I am concerned for this viewer, but I don't know what to do. What would you do if this is a viewer of yours, Steve? Nothing. It's not my problem. Unless I was like really close to them, unless it was someone that I knew and really cared about and felt like if I did try to persuade them, I might be able to push them in the right direction. If this was just someone that I knew through my YouTube channel and like I didn't even know them as well as I know you, like I feel like you and I have a kind of a relationship. We've known each other for a long time. I consider us to be sort of friends, right? Like we like each other. We, you know, so if it was someone that I didn't know as well as I know you, and it was just someone I knew as a viewer of my YouTube channel, and they had this problem and they were approaching it this way, I wouldn't do anything. Because if someone has a problem like this person clearly has, and they very, very obviously do not want help with that problem, then I am not going to offer them help. And they can live their life however they want to live it. And however they live their life, and at whatever point their life ends under whatever circumstances, that's their problem. That's not my problem. It's not my job to try and force people to take help that they are too stupid to accept. I mean, that's really the bottom line for me. If he has a heart problem, he's going to a heart specialist, and he is deliberately not disclosing to his heart doctor that he has an addiction, and that he is abusing a substance that is affecting his health, and I'm sure is having some kind of an effect on his heart, given how much he drinks, right? And he is deliberately choosing not to share that information with his doctor because he just doesn't want to hear about it, because he's already decided for himself that whatever the doctor would say, he's not going to stop drinking. Well, I'm an atheist, so I only mean this metaphorically, but go with God. It's your fucking life. Live it and kill yourself in slow motion however you want. It's not my problem. And I'm not going to waste my breath or waste my time trying to save you if you're that fucking dumb and self-destructive that you're determined to keep drinking that much alcohol on a regular basis for whatever fucking reason you think you need to, and you have people in your life who are willing to offer you help, who are willing to help you improve this situation, and you're just saying, nope. Okay. Good luck. No, I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't do anything. It's not my problem. Big Steve P. Hey, Steve, absolutely love your stuff. Thank you for all the laughs. So here's my question. My partner has said she would be interested in Star Trek because I love it so much, but of course, wouldn't want to watch all of it, so I figured a curated list. I was inspired by your retro reviews categories, first, best, worst, etc., and thought I should use a unifying theme. Perfect for her, sexy episodes. For our purposes, it can be silly sexy, which is good considering we're talking about Star Trek. So, for my question, what would be your top 1 or 2 best sexy episodes from each series? I assume Sub Rosa will be on this list. Thank you in advance for answering this absurd question. Love your work. Yeah, Sub Rosa is sexy in like a silly way. Maybe the Risa episode of Deep Space Nine, where Worf briefly becomes a Republican and Dax almost breaks up with him because of it. You know, that's kind of a sexy episode because Bashir and Lita spend like half the episode fucking, and then they have like their official ceremonial breakup, and Dax is running around in a bathing suit for half of it. I'm sure there are sexy episodes of the other shows too, but I just can't think of any. It's weird, like Star Trek is often very horny, but it's hard for me to think of instances where it has been legitimately sexy. You know, where I've been watching an episode and thought, that was sexy, what just happened. Like, it's really horny. There's a lot of flirting. There's a lot of sort of meaningful glances. There's a lot of talk about sex kind of happening here and there. There's a lot of, you know, women, obviously. The costume designers were, you know, dressing women very sexily and starting in the 60s, you know, like there's a lot of horniness in Star Trek, but sexiness is harder to find. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, Sub Rosa, I think it's called Let He Who Is Without Sin, the Risa episode of Deep Space Nine, that comes to mind. And I'm sure there are others, but it's hard to think of them off the top of my head. But if I can find more than a few and I haven't reviewed them already, that might actually be a good category for retro reviews, the sexy episodes. Good luck. Good luck introducing your partner to Star Trek through sexy episodes. That's a good idea. Felix, hey, Steve, I still don't believe that progressive politics will save the Democrats. They lack effective messaging, good communicators, or they suppress them, and a committed base. But that's not my question. My question is, would you sit down with The Drinker to debate movies and TV. Obviously, I reject his reactionary politics, but I don't think he's a bad dude per se. The conservative culture warrior shtick just seems to be the thing that pays his bills. Apart from that, I think he has some legitimate criticism and sometimes praise of recent productions. Fandom, lore, studio politics, and canon are obviously areas where you have wildly different views. And for the record, I lean towards yours, though not always. But there might be some surprising overlap. I think we need a civilized debate about these things. Given that blanket comments about modern audiences would probably be out of bounds, I think you could actually pull it off. The question is, would you be interested in that? Not even if they paid me. No. I assume you mean the critical drinker. You say the drinker, like like that's his nickname or so, the drinker, the babe. Fuck that guy. No. I wouldn't. No. Fuck him. Fuck him and fuck everybody who does his act. No, I don't care if he's only pretending to be an asshole to pay the bills or not. He's an asshole, and life is too short to sit online with fucking assholes and argue about stupid shit. What are we going to argue about? What are we going to have a debate about? Whether I'm right about Star Trek or he's right? I don't fucking care. Who am I trying to convince? Him? His shitty viewers? I don't fucking care what they think about me or about Star Trek or about anything else. Fuck him. No, not even if they paid me what I do. Life's too fucking short, man. Life's too fucking short to sit around and argue with assholes on the internet about shit that doesn't make any fucking difference. No, no, I would not do that. I have negative interest in doing that. Joe McClory, with the time of year it is and the news, I had an idea that I need to put out into the world. A health carol. No setup. We all know why insurance CEOs are Scroogely, and we start after a flash of white with the CEO being taught people are successful if they have money as a child and young man, then moving to the middle stage, seeing the harm that sort of thought has by denying care for profit and how it makes people providing care suffer as well. Then we move to the future. It really twists the knife. The CEO seeing how he was killed and how people are not sad for him and even call his killer a hero. The last scene of him breaking down, asking to change, being of his grave, being vandalized in support of his killer, or being used as a shrine to the people who died due to lack of care during his term as CEO. That's when we get the twist. He's not allowed to change. He wakes up over his body dying on the street and is chained with medical debt. He is not Scrooge in this story, but Marley. I love that. You know what you just wrote? You didn't write the whole thing, but you know what you just came up with a pitch for? A really good Twilight Zone episode. That's what that is, buddy. That's great. I love that. That's fantastic. And it's the twist at the end that really sells it. Yeah. Up until that point, it's okay. It's like a riff on A Christmas Carol, but instead of Scrooge, it's the CEO who got murdered. Like that could work. Like that's a good sort of framework, and people would get it and it's a really obvious way to go. And in this case, I think obvious would be a good thing. But that twist at the end, when it turns out that he's not actually meant to be a stand-in for Scrooge, he's a stand-in for Marley, and now he doesn't get redemption and he's chained forever. That's really good, man. That's really good. I like that a lot. Agent Meister, who by Sunday will have traveled around the sun 43 times. Happy birthday. Youngin, I can say, because I'm 44. Peldor Joy, Steve, you've made no secret of your fondness for DC, and I would love to hear your thoughts on Green Lantern. Up until recently, the cosmic element of the DCU was something I couldn't give a fig about. I was purely a Batman guy, occasionally dipping my toe into Superman comics, but a few years ago I took the plunge and read Jeff Johns' Green Lantern Rebirth from 2004 and haven't looked back. Anything I knew about GL up until then was absorbed by osmosis after years of reading Batman, but it was enough to get me hooked on Hal Jordan and the world he lives in. I've spent hundreds of dollars on GL back issues since, and there isn't one I haven't enjoyed. I quite like the Ryan Reynolds movie, too. There, I've said it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on GL. Do you have a favorite Lantern? Alan, Hal, Guy, John, Kyle? Or a favorite storyline? I'll wrap up by wishing you a happy Christmas and a big thank you for all your output over the last year. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you very much for saying such nice things, and thank you for being a supporter. The only time I've ever read Green Lantern comics was back in the 90s when Ron Mars was writing it and Kyle was Green Lantern. I think I started reading when Kyle first became the Lantern. And I read that for a little while and liked it, but eventually kind of just fell out of it. And I barely remember it now. I remember enjoying it, but I don't really have a strong memory of it. I should go back and revisit some of that stuff maybe. But no, I've never been a huge Green Lantern fan. I mean, there are points of connection with it that I can see that I think might make me interested if there are stories that lean into those connections. Like I love Hal Jordan's origin as a test pilot. I'll tell you one of my favorite Green Lantern stories is New Frontier, which is a Justice League story, like everybody's in it, but it really takes Hal as the main point of view character. And, I was talking about the Mercury program earlier in response to another question. Hal Jordan is basically, and he's in the role of a Mercury astronaut. Like he's a pioneer on the cutting edge of the frontier, a test pilot and an astronaut. And, it's very much an homage. And Darwin Cook was also a big lover of that part of history and of that part of the space program, and aviation as well, obviously. And, he wrote it to be sort of an homage and a conjuring of that period in American history, the early days of NASA and the space program. And that's one of the things that makes me love that story so much. And a big part of that is Hal. So that version of Hal Jordan, I think, is fantastic. And that part of his history, the fact that he was a pilot, the fact that he was, in some versions, involved in the space program, is just really cool to me. And I really like that. And I really connect with that immediately. And then, of course, in the 60s and the 70s, there was the social commentary stuff that Denny O'Neil and oh my God, Neil Adams. I almost forgot, his name went right out of my head. Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams were doing in Green Lantern, Green Arrow. So I mean, I've brushed up against Green Lantern here and there. And I always thought my personal angle on it was if I ever got a chance to write Green Lantern, that it would be a cross between a Star Trek show and a cop show. Like my angle on Green Lantern would be a cop show set in the Star Trek universe, where it would be like, going from planet to planet instead of doing it all in one city or whatever. But that's kind of the angle that I see in my head of like, how would I make it work if I was doing Green Lantern? What would I do with this? Sci-fi cop show, like pulp sci-fi adventure cop show. But no, so I can't give you any specifics because I don't really have any, because I've only just sort of dipped a toe in every now and then to the Green Lantern. Steve, no questions today. Just hope you enjoy your holidays. And I hope that Superman trailer was what you were hoping it would be. It was a really good trailer. I mean, I was looking forward to the movie anyway. But yes, it was a really good trailer. I loved how brightly colored his costume is. I love the fact that it looks like a costume. It doesn't look like some weird alien reptile skin. It looks like fucking clothes that he put on like a person. I love seeing Crypto. I love that it's, hey, it's fucking Crypto, everybody. It's a dog with a Superman cape. How about that? Like, I love the idea, and I hope that the movie bears this out. That yes, it will be a movie that has some emotional depth and some seriousness and takes the character seriously and tells a story that hopefully will mean something to you by the time it's over, but that will also embrace the silliness. I am dying for a superhero movie, for a Superman movie specifically, that will embrace the silliness of Superman. Like, yes, I want a big, emotional, meaningful, dramatic Superman movie that makes me feel good and makes me cry and makes me, oh God, I love Superman so much. Like, yes, I want all of that. But I also want a movie that embraces how fucking goofy Superman can be sometimes. Like, there's some really, really silly shit in the history of Superman. And I would love to see some of that come out as opposed to, trying to pretend that it's not there. Like, no, everybody, we have to take this seriously. This is very serious stuff. Like, oh, Okay, calm down, Zach. But yeah, I like the trailer a lot, and I am looking forward to the movie even more than I was before I saw the trailer, which means it was a good trailer because that's what a trailer is supposed to do. A patron tells the tale of Lars, the winter solstice polar bear, George Soros, and the war on Christmas. It all happens tonight. How fascinating. Okay. Is that all your name? On winter solstice, Lars travels the world on an iceberg drawn by narwhals and delivers toys to good vegetarians, not as well known as the myths of Santa, Harry Hanukkah, and the Son of God. You may recognize Lars as he once worked for Coca-Cola. Tired of corporate servitude peddling soft drinks, he quit and went in pursuit of his dream, an Xmas alternative. His small startup can currently visit coastal vegetarians and those with water access. He's seeking investment capital from Soros. The cash will be used to purchase the Xmas toy surplus from the Kringle Toy Factory at the After Xmas half-off sale on Boxing Day. Soros' engineering team, the same that delivered weather-controlling machines, vote-changing ballot boxes, and UFO drones, are developing HCUs, hypercooling units, to prevent iceberg melt, and LHDs, levitating hover devices, to access landlocked vegetarians. Why back Lars? Soros enjoys his rent-free space inside Republicans' head. To all, may the holidays be happy or holy if you need them to be. And congratulations, by the way, you just pitched a better movie than Red One. It wasn't terrible, but it was Red One wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. But this sounds hilarious. This sounds great. Very creative. I like it a lot. Isaiah Taylor. So, following this drone stuff, I've been watching The X-Files as a form of comfort. I've also started watching Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds. Basically mysterious shit. Steve, have you seen any drones in Maryland? Do you go outside at night to look for any? Thanks. No and no. No, I haven't seen any, and it would not have even occurred to me to go outside to look. I don't give a shit. No, I haven't seen any drones in Maryland. But if it has gotten you to watch The X-Files, then I guess it's a net positive for you because The X-Files is a great fucking show. So I'm glad that the drones have compelled you to return to the warm embrace of Fox Mulder and Dana Scully. And ADA Skinner. I always liked Skinner. Skinner's a good guy. But no, yeah, I have not seen any drones. And I have not heard of any reports of drones in this area either. Certainly not like what we're hearing about from Jersey. Yeah, I'll keep you updated if I hear of any drone sightings in the region. Simon Moody. This headline struck me the other week. Trump vows to end birthright citizenship on the BBC website. I sat back and thought for a moment, then, just to be sure, searched and checked that, yes, indeed, that is in a constitutional amendment and thus requires a 2/3 majority vote in both houses. After 10 years in politics, Trump either still knows nothing or thinks if he orders something, it just happens. If he wants it to end, fine. But vows seems like just setting himself up for failure. I'm not American, rich, or a former president, but it took me 2 to 3 minutes at most to check the above. How is someone this willfully stupid not dead from just walking in front of a bus or licking an electrical socket? To try to end on a lighter note, with the Trump clown car overflowing, we need a word for that. So, a giggle of clowns? Also, a CPAC of morons? And to bring joy at Christmas or any other time, a cuddle of kittens. Thoughts? I like giggle of clowns. That's a good one. Or CPAC. Yeah, CPAC. A CPAC of morons is a good one. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just Trump just says stuff because he knows that his base will eat it up. And he knows his base is dumb enough to believe whatever he says. So Trump can say, once I take office, I will end birthright citizenship. And the people who support him, if you're dumb enough to vote for Donald Trump, you're dumb enough to believe him when he says, I will end birthright citizenship, and to think that he can just do that, even though he can't. Now, does Trump himself know better? I honestly don't know. I refer to my policy of uncertainty when it comes to Trump. There's a sort of a quantum mechanical quality to it. Whenever Donald Trump says something that is just outrageously false, is it because he knows it's false and he's just lying? Or is it because he's just that much of a numbskull that he doesn't know that this obviously false fact is false. And because Trump is simultaneously an utterly shameless and willful liar and a massive dumbass who doesn't know anything about anything, who knows what the true reason is? Is he saying something he knows to be untrue, or does he just not know this thing that he definitely should know? Who knows? Who knows? But yes, but I agree with you. The next time the next time he is about to lick an electrical socket, the Secret Service should stand down and let it happen. Air One Fire. Hi, Steve. Can you give me some tips for writing? I'd like to write a story, but have never written anything. I can come up with a sort of general concept and themes, but I have a problem with the more technical stuff, like how to make dialogue not sound stupid, or a description not sound stupid, or how to come up with events that are going to happen in the story. Also, can I just rewrite a story that I like as practice instead of coming up with my own thing? Thanks and Merry Christmas to you, you wonderful old YouTube channel. Well, first of all, yes, you absolutely can rewrite a story that you like as practice. That is an actual method for practicing writing, especially if you are a young writer. What you would do is you would find a story that you really like, and you would have a copy of that story, either in another window on your computer or open somewhere where you can see it. And you would start by transcribing it and just type exactly what the original story says. And then you let your imagination take over. And at some point, up to you, maybe it'll even start happening naturally. You eventually switch over from transcribing the story that somebody else already wrote to writing your own version of it. You take it in your own direction, right? And that's a good way to kind of prime the puppet. Obviously, especially if you're doing it with a story that is not in the public domain, you can never publish it. You can never do anything with it. It's just to get used to it. It's just to practice. So that is absolutely something you can do. And I've talked about this before on the show, I think. One of my favorite writing exercises that I still use to this day, that I have occasionally based videos on, is the two voices exercise, where you just start writing a dialogue between two voices and nothing else other than that. No description, not even, attributives, not even he said, she said, whatever. Just write a dialogue between two voices, and every new paragraph is another voice. So first voice, second voice, first voice, second voice, first voice, second voice. And they're just talking about something. And maybe the first thing you do is you come up with a subject. You come up with a topic. You just think of something. Hot air balloons. Fuck it. Who cares? The first thing that comes to your mind. Two voices having a conversation about hot air balloons. Maybe they're arguing. Maybe they're sharing their enthusiasm with each other about hot air balloons. It doesn't matter. Just two voices going back and forth talking about each other. Or talking about something to each other. And you do that for a while. And you do different versions of that. And you get used to writing dialogue and writing in different voices. As far as how to come up with events that are going to happen in the story, if you have a concept, if you can come up with an idea of what your story is going to be about, then the next thing you need to do is think about, well, what's going to happen in this story? Break it down. Think about it in terms of a movie. Think about it as scenes. Okay, what has to happen in the story for me to get to the point that I want to get to? And you just try to think in terms of scenes. What has to happen? What do these characters want? Who are the characters in the story? Who's the main character? What do they want? How are they going to get it? What's going to try and stop them from getting it? What challenges will they have to overcome? What obstacles will they have to overcome in order to get what they want? At the end of the story, do they get what they want? Do they not get what they want? Do they get something else? These are questions that you can ask. And in answering those questions, you can find little beats that become scenes, So yeah, it's just, and if you're brand new at it and you've never done it before, I would recommend getting used to practicing. Try things out. Read read lots of different stuff. Read short stories, read novels, watch movies, watch TV shows, and think and think critically, think like a writer. Look at how the story is structured, look at how the story moves forward. Pay attention to the choices characters make and how those choices affect what happens in the story. And then start to think about how you would apply those same kinds of things to your writing. You know, yeah. Good luck. It's really exciting. I mean, I've been writing since I was a teenager, since before I was a teenager. I'm still not very good at it, but I love it. And it's a really wonderful thing. So if you really want to do it and you're really serious about it, it's, you know, just the best thing to do to become a better writer is to write a lot and read a lot, and to think about what you're reading in terms of writing. Kara the Token Nerd, who I believe has a writing-related question. How about that? Nice how these things work out sometimes. Kara the Token Nerd, hi, Steve. Hope you're well and looking forward to Christmas. I may have asked you this question before, and if so, I apologize. Do you find that sometimes you plan out your story, and then, even though you have everything sorted, your characters fight back? What do you do when they do that? Do you let your characters take control, or do you force them to do what you want because you've done all the work and kept all the notes for your original story, or do you give in? I realize this might be an odd question to ask, and I appreciate it if all you can do is shrug and say, I have no idea. Anyway, hope to see you later tonight, and I hope you have a great Christmas, Kara. And obviously, same to you and yours. I hope that you and yours have a great Christmas too. No, this is a great question, and this is something that I feel like people who are watching this or are seeing your question there, who are writers themselves, probably know exactly what you're talking about. Yes. And I was talking about a version of this earlier this week when I was talking to Dana on our Wednesday live stream about the Starfleet jobs video I put up earlier this week, the Starfleet historian video. And one of the things I said was, even though I'm proud of that video and I'm very pleased with how it turned out, there's a part of me that wishes that it was funnier, because I always want these videos, those Starfleet jobs videos, they are meant to be satirical. And part of what I want to do with them is to make fun of Star Trek and to make fun of other stuff too, through that sort of format. And as much as I am happy with how that video came out, there's part of me that watches it and goes, man, I wish I could have found a way to make this funnier. And it was that kind of thing where I had an intention going in and I knew where I was going. And it's weird, like the video pretty much ended up where I wanted it to go. Like it's not like the character completely took control and it just went off in its own direction, but it just kind of ended up being what it is. And as I said during that show on Wednesday, sometimes as a writer, and I'm sure you are familiar with this feeling as well, sometimes you just have to let it be what it is, you know, and it's still your work. Like, you're still writing it. You're still the one making it up, but it goes in a direction that you didn't necessarily anticipate or that you didn't necessarily want when you started, but you think it's good. Like, you still think it works. It's just working in a different way than you had planned. And you just have to let it be what it is, you know? So yeah, that sounds very familiar to me. And it like, what do I do when that happens? Or what do I do when it feels like the characters are taking control? You have to practice your judgment. You as the writer have to make choices. And you have to remember that you're in charge. The characters aren't in charge. You're in charge. And if you feel the characters taking over and they're taking the story in a direction that you don't want the story to go in, not just because you had something else planned, but like you can feel it going off in a direction. If it's starting to become masturbatory, if it's starting to become pointless, if it's starting to become tedious, if you can imagine yourself reading it and going, this is really boring, or this is really self-congratulatory, or this is really navel gazing, or this is really going off in a corner somewhere and nobody's going to get this and nobody's going to give a shit about this, and I wrote this and I barely give a shit about it. Like, if something like that happens, then you need to rein it in, and you need to say, nope, okay, I wrote that. It is what it is. I'll save it in an alternate file. It'll be an unused draft, and maybe there's an idea in there that I can use in something else at some point in the future. But for this piece that I'm working on right now, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to cut it off at whatever point, and I'm going to go off and hopefully go more in the direction that I intended to go. Like, you have to make that choice, make that decision, and you have to, write it the way you want it written. But there might be other times where it goes off in that direction and it turns out, oh shit, actually, I didn't plan it this way, but this is actually turning out really good. Then you want to go with it, maybe. I mean, it really depends. But the thing to always remember is that it's your work. You're the writer. You're making it up. Your characters, hopefully, your characters will seem real to you, and hopefully they'll seem real to your readers as well. But they're not real. Like, they'll seem real, they'll feel emotionally real within the context of the story. Hopefully they come out as feeling like real emotional people, so that the reader can invest in them and get attached to them and care about what happens to them. But at the end of the day, they're imaginary people, and they only do what you make them up to do. You're the writer, you're the boss. So if they're doing something that you don't want them to do, guess what? They don't have to do that. You can make them do whatever you want. And then it's your job as the writer to not only make them do what you want, but to make whatever that is work and be a good story and be something that you're proud of writing, and that if anybody reads it, they would be happy that they read it. But it's very much a judgment call. You're the writer, you're the boss. It's your story. You figure out what's best for it, and then you do that. Sweet Tea Gamer, I know you have said you might not be the best answerer regarding some questions, but I wanted to ask a couple, one in particular about your thoughts on atheism and religion. I'm agnostic and have always questioned what I will leave behind and what's after death. I like to think something good is after, because I lost pets and relatives and like to think they went to a better place than a void. And I wonder about religion, because it feels like all leftists hate religion. I have two friends who are conservative and Christians mostly, but I never felt pressured to be Christian too. One of my friends made a light recommendation about praying even when I'm alone. I never saw it as forced and took it as him being a genuine friend. I haven't tried it though, but it just feels like there's a mentality that anyone religious is a quack or alt-right or bad. What are your thoughts on this? Well, that's not true. That idea that everyone who is religious is a quack or is bad, that's not true. There used to be, and I think there still is among certain people, among atheist circles, this idea that, and you heard it a lot back in the day, about 10 years ago or so, in atheist spaces online, religion is a mental illness, they would say. Not any particular form of religion, not any particular religious practice, nothing more specific than religion. Religion is a mental illness. And not only is that offensive to mental illness and to people who have mental illness, it's offensive to religious people too. I am not religious. I am an atheist. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in the supernatural. I don't believe in the metaphysical claims of religion. I would love for there to be an afterlife, but I don't think there is one. I don't believe in miracles. I don't believe in the power of prayer. I don't believe in any of that stuff. Not because I wouldn't like for some of it to be true, but because I just don't think it's real. I see no evidence for it. But that does not mean that everybody who has a religious belief or a spiritual belief is delusional or unintelligent or immoral or a kook or a quack or bad in some way. There are many, many, many wonderful, compassionate, incredibly intelligent, reasonable people who hold any number of religious beliefs in every category of religion you can think of: Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, Wiccan, whatever, you name it. Zoroastrian, right? There are serious problems with institutional religion, with organized religion. I think it is fairly easy to make a good argument that organized religion has had, on balance, a negative effect on the evolution of humanity, on the evolution of our culture and our society, that it has, even though there are definitely cases you can look at where it has been a help, there are far more instances where it has been a serious hindrance to progress. But individual religious belief, I have always said, or I have not always said, unfortunately, but I have said for many years, if the only thing we disagree about is whether or not there's a God, I would rather consider you my friend than my enemy. I'd rather be your ally. If we agree about humanity and equality and compassion and progressivism and looking at our diversity as a strength and wanting a tolerant, equitable, democratic, pluralistic, multicultural society, like if all of those things are important to us, if you care about the environment, if you care about the poor, if you care about people who have been wrongfully marginalized in society because of their gender, because of their race, because of where they come from, because of their health or their disability or whatever, if all of that stuff is important to you like it's important to me, and the only thing we disagree on is you think there's a God and I don't, I couldn't care less about that. I do not care, because that other stuff is way more important to me. Like, God may be more important to you, but that other stuff that you care about and that's important to you, that's more important to me. And we have way more in common than we don't. So that is my view. I do not have any axe to grind against religion in general or against good religious people. I would much rather have a religious person who takes their religion as a call to be a better person than have an atheist who takes their atheism as license to be a prick. So those are my thoughts. Wolfie Basach, hi Steve, as it's the last show before the holiday, I'm going to take the opportunity to wish your good self and everyone within the circle the best of times. Because I forgot there was a show on tonight, I haven't got a question, but as the season of goodwill is almost upon us, help yourself to a pay rise, and here's a bit of stupid shit free of charge. The government has made the use of punctuation a criminal offense with no chance of parole. So from now on, you can expect a very long sentence. Okay, you're starting up. It's okay. Don't trust stairs. They're always up to something. I like it. Let me see some more. Dogs can't operate MRI machines, but CAT scan. That's, you know what? I like that. I'm going to let that one slide. I need some batteries so I can tell the time. Is it for a clock? I don't know. That's why I need the batteries. Is it 4 o'clock? I like that. These are okay. Give me some more. Give me some more. Give me some more. Have you met my daughter, Beth? What's Beth short for? What do you expect? She's only 3. Okay. Mercifully for you all, the 1,000-character limit is looming. So once again, everyone have a great Christmas, and I'll see you all next year. Thank you for the gift, my friend. And may Santa Claus give you more terrible dad jokes to share with us in the new year, because I can always use some of those. Russell, hey Steve, first, just voicing my opinion of something. I'm not a fan of United Healthcare. I have them for my provider, and I pay dearly when I have my surgeries. That being said, I'm not a fan of what happened to the CEO. It's murder, and reading and the comments on the news sections and various platforms, I find it appalling that people are celebrating this, many of them basically saying they would acquit. Now, I recently watched your video, and you said you didn't condone the actions, but that you are not heartbroken either, which is fair. But let me ask you something. Would you acquit on principle or convict if you knew he was the shooter? This actually reminds me of another thought that I've had in the past. It's the same reason why I would not want to be a paramedic or a firefighter. Why I am not, other than the lack of skill, like assuming I have the necessary skills, I am not suited. I am not of the proper temperament to be a paramedic or a firefighter or a doctor for that matter, because when you decide to pursue those careers, when you decide to do that in your life, you decide to become a paramedic, let's say, It is your duty to provide the help that you know how to provide to anybody who needs it. If you are called upon to save anyone's life, you have to do whatever you can to save that person's life, no matter who they are. Even if the person that you get the call, you show up at their house and the person who is having the heart attack, who you need to resuscitate, is like a well-known neo-Nazi leader. Like, you still have to save that person. So that's why I don't want to be a paramedic, because I don't want to save that person. Sorry if that makes me a bad person. I don't want to save that person. I don't think that person should be saved. Let that person die. But that's why I'm not a paramedic, right? Because I'm not willing to make that commitment. So it's good that I'm not a paramedic, because a paramedic should have that principle and have that commitment, and I don't. And the same thing with a juror. If you are chosen to sit on a jury, I believe that it is your sacred duty as a citizen to make, to the best of your ability, an honest finding of the facts based on the law, right? Based on the law and based on the evidence presented to you in court. So in principle, if I were on the jury of Luigi Mangioni's trial, if I were presented with evidence that convinced me that he was indeed the person who killed that healthcare CEO, that United Healthcare CEO, then I would be bound by my duty as a juror to vote to convict, because I was convinced that he did it, that as a matter of fact, he did the thing that was illegal, and that's what we're here to decide. So I would have to vote to convict him, regardless of my personal feelings on the matter. And that is why I would not want to be on that jury. And why if I were called for jury duty for that, I would say something during the questioning process to get my ass kicked out. So I wouldn't have to sit on that jury, because I don't want to do that. Because even though I believe, again, in principle, yeah, you're right. He murdered somebody. He shot somebody and murdered somebody in the street. And we cannot tolerate that in our society. It's illegal, and it should be illegal. And he should go to prison for what he did. He's been captured. He's going to get a jury. He's going to get a trial. He's probably going to get convicted, and he's going to go to prison. And that's what should happen. But I would not feel good being a part of that, because even though I don't condone murder in principle, am I mad at him for shooting that guy? No. Do I think that anything valuable has been taken from the world because that United Healthcare CEO has been killed? On balance, no. I mean, I'm sure his friends and loved ones have lost someone very dear to them, but anything good that he brought to their lives must surely be vastly outweighed by the pain and suffering and death he contributed to bringing into the world and the lives of other people. So am I upset that he got murdered? Fuck no. I kind of like the way Bill Burr said it. Bill Burr compared it to a gangster getting whacked. He said, do we get this upset when we hear about a gangster getting whacked? Probably not. So why would anybody be upset that this CEO got killed? Fuck that guy. So no, I mean, I believe as a matter of principle, as a matter of law, he should be convicted and he should go to prison. He should be forced to pay for his crime. But would I want to be one of the people who voted to send him to do that? No, and I wouldn't be, because, you know, as I said earlier to a previous question, if I had seen him in McDonald's while he was on the run, I would not have turned him in. Turn him in for what? For shooting a guy who had it coming? Yeah, it was against the law, but I'm not a cop. I'm not a lawyer. It's not my job to catch him. It's not my job to bring him to justice. You know? So anyway, that's what I have to say. And last question is from Dana, and Dana says, guess what, Steve? I made it. Cue a witchy cackle of mingled relief and delight. I'd love to hear what that sounds like. Maybe that. I don't know. Speaking of which, upon my return to school in January, I need to be fully prepared to muddle through the mire that is monstrous literature, the brand new created by me elective that I will be teaching next term. The 5 monster classifications we'll be exploring are the undead, vampires, ghosts, zombies, etc., demi-humans, werewolves, mermaids, created beings, robots, golem, inhuman beings, aliens, fae, kaiju, and monstrous beasts, Jaws, King Kong. I considered including monstrous humans, but we also have a true crime elective, and I figure that's covered there in much more depth. Anywho, my ask is this. Given those categories, if you were a monster, which type of monster would you be, and why? Kaiju. Easy. I would, yeah. You know why? Because I would want to hang out with Godzilla, baby. Be a kaiju, live on Monster Island, hang out with Godzilla, live a perfect, happy life. Maybe occasionally get to fight other kaiju or smash up some human cities. Nothing but good, clean fun there. And the other 90% of your life, you hang out on Monster Island with Godzilla and, you know, who are the other monsters? Godzilla and who's the fucking is it Aguirus? Yeah, the yeah. Anyway, the monster and little baby Godzilla, son of Godzilla, Minila. Yeah, go play. Leave your Uncle Godzilla alone. But yeah, kaiju. Absolutely. That's there no other kind of vampire maybe for the immortality, but like other than that, like no other category of monster has the advantages of being a kaiju, which is getting to live on Monster Island and hang out with Godzilla. So that's what I'd go for. What a great question. Really good questions from everybody this time. Thanks everybody for the questions. Now I'm about to turn my full attention for the rest of the show to the live chat. But before I do that, you know what time it is, at least if you're a regular viewer. It's time to premiere a brand new Stuffy and Friends short. This will go up tomorrow afternoon on this YouTube channel as a standalone YouTube short. But because you are kind enough to join me live for this show on Friday night, you get to see the brand new Stuffy and Friends short for this week first before anybody else. So please do now enjoy this brand new Stuffy and Friends short.
Hey, Stuffy! Hey, please have a seat. What's happening right now? As the end of the year is approaching, we've opted to take this time to conduct your performance review. Oh. I guess we can. Have we done this before and I just forgot?
Oi, we'll ask the questions.
Sorry.
So, what would you say was your greatest accomplishment this past year?
I wrote 1,000 Get Out the Vote postcards before the election. That was pretty. And what was your most humiliating failure? This one time I went to the grocery store and I had a rip in the ass of my jeans and I didn't realize it until after I got home.
Thank you for your input. We've decided to give you a 4.
That's out of 5.
It's a good rating, so no complaints.
Okay. Thanks. What can I improve on to get a 5 next year? No one ever gets a 5. And when are we getting together so I can evaluate the 3 of you?
We've opted not to pursue that at this time.
So I saw in the chat there, JDC says, love the Roku screensaver in the background. You know, I originally when I was setting up that shot, I was going to have the TV just be off, but then I always wear a black shirt in the Stuffy videos, so it would have been black on black. And I just, but then, you know, the Roku screensaver has that wonderful purple color palette, and it really gave a splash of color to the shot. So I decided to use that instead, and I think it works really well. And it gives you a little bit of movement in it, but that's hopefully not too distracting, but makes it a little more visually interesting. So yeah, I'm glad that you enjoyed that. Dana, yes, those are Stuffy's glasses. Yes, when Stuffy is working, he does wear glasses. And that was a very, they were doing a performance review. So that's very serious work. Also, Air One Fire, thank you very much. Anguirus, that's who I was trying to think of. Yes, Anguirus, who I believe he was Godzilla's first opponent. He was introduced in Godzilla Raids Again, the second Godzilla movie. He was the first kaiju that Godzilla fought. And then eventually they bonded and became, allies. It's kind of a beautiful story, really. Not unlike Gilgamesh and Enkidu. Anyway, let's see. Tammy Birch says, what do you think the most important thing you could have done to make your channel as successful as it is? I think the reason that my channel has been as successful as it is, and it's, I mean, whatever that means, like there's lots of people that have way more successful channels than I do. I stay true to myself. I do things that I genuinely find interesting. If I express a thought or an opinion, it's something that I genuinely believe. Unless I'm obviously being like satirical or sarcastic, obviously. But if I'm telling you something that I think, it's because I really think it and I really believe it and I really think it's worth saying. I don't do things just for views. I don't do things just for clicks. I don't make videos about things that I am not interested in just because I think someone else might be interested in them. And I think that I think that comes through in the work and in the channel. And I think that has worked to my advantage over the years, that hopefully people who watch my stuff see me as a genuine person, as an honest person, not as a particularly wise or enlightened or infallible person, but as an honest person. And, I think that has been a very important part in sort of setting the tone and creating the personality of the channel. David Colby says, I feel like a lot of people missed the fact that the fan wank depressing the shit out of Boims, it was hollow. I don't think the ep said the moral as well as it should, but it's there. Well, but he's convinced that it's not hollow at the end. Like he spends the whole episode like complaining about how much the multiverse sucks, but then he's persuaded at the end that it actually doesn't suck. So what's the lesson there? Why am I a nerd for this? Why am I a nerd now, Dana? I mean, I'm not arguing with you. I'm not saying but why in this particular instance? Air One Fire, yes. Godzilla Raids Again is really good. Yes, I like Godzilla Raids Again a lot. My heart belongs to the goofy Godzilla movies of the mid to late 60s and early to mid 70s. Like I've said before, my favorite Godzilla movie is Godzilla versus Megalon, which just as a movie might be the worst one, but I love it so much. I love every moment of it. But yeah, Godzilla Raids Again is really good. Philip Kehoe says, spinning off the Superman trailer, I was thinking about how most Lois Lane actors are a few years older than their Superman. That's right. I never really thought about that, but I believe that's true. Yeah. And is Rachel Brosnahan older than David Corenswet? I think she might be. Yeah, you're right. Isn't that interesting? Soups likes older babes. Kara says, yes, and the story of his journey to the island of Dilmun to speak with the gods. Dilmun has been suggested to be the island of Bahrain. Yeah, going back to Gilgamesh. Yeah. Yeah, and Philip follows up, and that really works for their character dynamic, even if the narrative never makes it explicit. Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense for Lois to be, if not older, then at least more experienced, because at least in modern interpretations of the character, like Clark is a reporter, but Lois is like a reporter. Like Lois is a serious world-class journalist. And Clark is a good reporter. Like he's no slouch, but Lois is, like the star reporter of the Daily Planet. Like she's, a legend in the making, right? So it makes sense for her to have something on Clark, to be older, to be a little smarter, to be whatever. because she's Lois, and in the Daily Planet, like, she's kind of the one on top. You know, when he's Superman, hey, he's Superman. He can, you know, he can do anything. But as a reporter, Lois is in the superior position. So yeah, that does make sense. Again, that's usually been the case in the modern interpretations, and in further back and in the comics, it was a very, you know, like, Clark was the best at everything and Lois was the girl reporter. But that dynamic has shifted, I think, for the better in more recent decades. Super chat from Isaiah: an X-Files fanfic episode in which the agents investigate teens who can predict where a mass shooting will take place. Holy shit, what a great idea. That's a good idea. That's a really good X-Files concept, my friend. Plasma Burn Death says, may I ask if you are planning to bring back Michael Worley? I really miss the Whirlpool. Never say never. I really love playing that character and writing that character. I don't have any plans for that right now, but never say never. I mean, the main reason why I haven't done any more with him for a few years is I don't know what else it would be. Like, I don't know what the setup would be for another season of the Whirlpool. Like, I don't have a story. I don't have a concept. But if I ever get one, I would be happy to do more Michael Worley. I really like Michael Worley a lot. As a character, obviously, not as a person. As a person, he's horrible. Oh, Dana, you called me a nerd about the Godzilla monsters. Yeah, well, that's fair. That's fair. I'll accept that. David says that's where the episode fell down. The argument is that meeting new people and characters and learning about humanity is exploration, but they don't show any of that in the multiverse. Yeah. And honestly, I mean, given, and obviously you might disagree with this because you're more of a Lower Decks fan than I am, but it's really nothing other. It's no different of an ending than I expected when I was watching it, because that's just the dumb level that Lower Decks is always written on. You know, like, Boimler is going on and on in the early parts of the episode about how much the multiverse sucks. Gee, it's Lower Decks. So do you think by the end he'll discover that actually the multiverse is awesome? Because that's how that fucking show always goes. The thing you think sucks actually turns out it's awesome. Because everything's awesome. Because that's how every story goes. Oh, I've lost my confidence. I can't do this. What was I thinking? Another character walks in and says, what are you saying? You're amazing. You're awesome. And that leads to the solution, because that's every fucking episode. Because the characters are written like children. Because I guess they assume, even though it's not supposed to be a kid's show, emotionally, they write it as though the people watching it are fucking children. I'm really glad that show's over. I'm really glad that show's over. The fact that Lower Decks got 5 seasons and its fans are still pissing and moaning about how it got canceled, but a fucking amazing show that is superior in every way, like Prodigy, gets kicked off of the streaming service after 1 season, gets dumped on Netflix for a second, that apparently got almost no promotion because a bunch of Star Trek fans were commenting on my video about Prodigy, saying they didn't even know there was a second season. They assumed it had been canceled because the network and the studio did such a poor job of marketing it. So there's a vastly superior Star Trek animated series that, you know, I'm grateful for the episodes we got. Like, it's a great show, whether it does any more or not. But that show is left to sort of just sit in relative obscurity while a fucking pandering, fucking fanboy, fanwank jerk-off fest masquerading as a comedy series that almost never has any fucking jokes, like Lower Decks, gets 50 episodes on the studio's streaming platform, and its fans are being fucking crybabies. Not all of them, but some of the fans are being fucking crybabies about the fact that it's over, because 5 seasons of their shitty show is just not enough for them. Yeah. I'm glad that it's over, and I'll be really glad when the people who are really upset about it being over grow up and get over it and stop crying about it, and then I can just forget about it. Can you tell that I've really soured on Lower Decks? There's something about this most recent season in particular has been so fucking lazy that I've really grown to resent the show. I still think that the people involved in it, at least the actors, the voice cast, are very talented people, and I really look forward to seeing them do other stuff. And I'm really looking forward to Tawny Newsom's Star Trek comedy show that she's developing. But yeah, Lower Decks, like, it's been lazy and pandering and lowest common denominator and pitched at, like, you know, it's basically a show made for people who go to Star Trek conventions, who will recognize the references and applaud like fucking trained seals. Like, that's what the show is made for. And it's been like that for a few years, but for some reason this season really just felt like, let's just jerk off the hardcore fans, and you know what I mean? And that's all we really need to do. It's just not a good show, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm in the minority. A lot of people like it, but I'm really, really fucking glad that it's over. Some random geek says, have you reused the Whirlpool wig in a different? No, actually I haven't. I have other wigs that kind of look like that, but no, I don't think I've used the Michael Whirley wig for anything other than Michael Whirley. I don't think. JDC says actual children don't have the 60 years of Star Trek memorized to get the references. That's a great point. That's a great point. Kirak 2011 says, Geek Me needs a Star Trek question. I know there are stinkers in almost every Star Trek, but are there any stinkers in Deep Space Nine? Oh, God, yes. Every Loaxana Troy episode is dog shit. Yes, even the one where her and Odo get trapped in the elevator. Yes, even that one. Every Loaxana Troy episode is fucking dog shit. Those are the only episodes of Deep Space Nine that I skip when I'm doing like a watch through. I would be happy if I never watched any of those episodes again. And I'm sure there are others as well that I'm not as big a fan of, but no, the Loaxana Troy episodes, I skip those every time. Yeah, no. Why? No, no, those are far and away the worst episodes of that show. JDC says, is Prodigy the DS9 of 21st century Trek? I mean, I guess in a way, because it's like the forgotten sibling, I guess. Yeah. I mean, in terms of quality, like I still think Strange New Worlds is the best overall of the current shows. But Prodigy is right there in second place. And if you look at it in terms of like, it's the fact that it's not as well known and not as apparently, we never really know for sure because of the way streaming services are. And it's hard to tell how many people are watching what show, but it certainly hasn't gotten nearly as much attention as other shows in the current generation of the franchise. So I guess in that sense, it's the Deep Space Nine. Yeah. And it's just that, and again, that's a shame because it's a really, really good show. And not just Lower Decks, but Picard as well. Like there have been vastly inferior new Star Trek shows that have gotten way more attention, both from the fan base and from like, you know, the sort of entertainment media that pays attention to Star Trek. Way more attention has been paid to just vastly inferior shows than has been paid to Prodigy, which is a fantastic show. So in that way, I guess it's kind of the Deep Space Nine. Yeah. I actually like the one with old Bashir, Air One Fire. The Mirror Universe. Yeah, the Mirror Universe ones you can skip to. I like the first Mirror Universe one. Okay, like it's not a classic or anything, but I enjoy it. But yeah, the Mirror Universe ones after that you can skip. No. I mean, it's fun for like a little bit. The Worf as the Regent is fun when Worf gets there, and obviously, I mean, Kira as the Intendant is always fun, but you get a lot of her in the first one, and then it's basically just the same thing over again for the rest of the episodes. So yeah, I would say the Deep Space Nine Mirror episodes after the first one are all skippable. And yes, not the Bashir. I like the Bashir, the old man Bashir one, but the one from the first season where Bashir gets possessed by the evil entity, and you get to see Alexander Siddig do his evil guy voice. That's pretty bad. That's a pretty bad episode. Yeah. Sean O'Sullivan said, why did they keep making Loaxana episodes? Who was she married to again? I forget. Anyway, that's the reason. Melora is not a great episode. I agree with you. Air One Fire. Yeah, Melora is not a great episode, but I wouldn't say it's like, it's not bad enough that I would choose not to watch it if I were like going through doing a watch through. Kirok with a super chat says, "You Luoxana Troy hater, you." I mean, pretty much. I think she's the worst character in the entire franchise. Isaiah says, this is about that X-Files concept. Isaiah says, basically, these teens have developed the ability to predict mass shootings as an evolutionary trait of self-preservation. That's such a good idea. Oh, that's such a good idea. Oh man, I wish this episode existed. That's such a good idea. Nolan says everything is too big in Strange New Worlds. The rooms, the ship, everything. Nah, I don't care. Too big compared to what? What, compared to Star Trek, the original series? Well, so what? I don't care. It looks great. That's all I care about. It looks great. I don't give a shit if it matches the Enterprise from TOS. It's a different show. I don't fucking care. I think it looks great. I think it's the best looking Star Trek show on the air right now. Andrew says, "Move Along Home, Prophet and Lace the Muse." I like Move Along Home. I like Move Along Home a lot. It's not, again, I wouldn't, like, fight somebody who trying to convince them it was if you don't like it, you don't like it. It's not a great episode, conventionally speaking, but it's so much fun. I love Move Along Home. John Burns with a super chat. Blue Cross Blue Shield mentioned having time limits on coverage for anesthesia during surgery. This is reversed. Napoleon would have been horrified. Yeah, they reversed it right after that motherfucker got shot, didn't they? Somebody was thinking at Blue Cross Blue Shield. They're like, oh shit, hey, well, you know what? Never mind. We changed please don't kill us. We changed our mind on that. Yeah, somebody was using their head. Simon Moody says, Dromedus Personae is one I can happily. Yeah, I see. That's another one that I really love. I love Dromedus Personae. Andrew says, you just like Nana Visitor all horned up and leather clad. Well, I mean, who doesn't? But as I said, one episode will do me with that. Like, I don't need like 5 more episodes of basically the same thing. Like, one episode is great. And it's like, oh, they're going to do one of these like every year now. We don't need to do that. Kirok with another super chat. Aside from Amok Time, since I know that is your fave, what is your second favorite TOS episode? Oh man, that's tough. I really like City on the Edge of Forever. I really like Balance of Terror. I really like Corbomite Maneuver. What else? What are some really? I mean, there's so many really good TOS episodes. Trouble with Tribbles is good. I mean, that's a really popular choice, but I mean, Trouble with Tribbles is a fucking blast. What else? Errand of Mercy. Ooh, Errand of Mercy is such a good episode. What is my, probably City. City on the Edge of Forever is probably my second favorite episode after Amok Time. Yeah. John Burns says they reversed 3 days before the CEO was shot. Well, then somebody, they knew something. It was like insider trading. They knew something was up. Some random geek just stating the obvious. Elon Musk is a white supremacist. Yep, you're absolutely right. Dalek97 says, have you read Absolute Batman? Reminded me of your video on why bats shouldn't be a billionaire. No, I haven't. I'm not really that interested in it. I see that it's selling really well and it's getting really good reviews, and the people who are reading it seem to really like it. So, I mean, I think that's all great, but I'm just not interested in yet another alt universe reboot, reconfiguring, reimagining of like, just find somebody who can write good Batman stories. Like I'll probably read it eventually. Like I will probably, once enough issues have been out that they do a collection, they do a paperback. I mean, I'm sure I'll read it at some point, just out of curiosity, and I hope I enjoy it. Like I hope I like it, but I don't feel like, oh God, I've got to read that as soon as possible. It just doesn't do it for me. I'm just not into, oh, it's Batman, but it's different. Okay. Hey, look, they reinvented the wheel, everybody. Oh, okay. Bravens one says, as someone from Maryland and an Orioles fan, what do you think of the outfield being pushed in again? I mean, even though I am an American League fan, not that, I mean, really, this doesn't even make that much of a difference anymore. But in my day, when the leagues were discernible from each other, even though my favorite teams were all American League teams, I enjoyed National League style baseball more because that was more pitcher centered than batter centered. And I just thought that was more interesting and more compelling and more exciting. So, I mean, I don't like a shorter infield. They push in the infield so that there are more home runs, so that they think that makes play more exciting, which it does. But no, I like a nice deep outfield so that when somebody hits a home run, like it means something. So I hardly even watch baseball anymore. So I'm not like going to get mad about it. And they've made so many other changes to the rules in recent years that, like now everybody can use a designated hitter now. And, they have like pitching clocks and stuff. And I'm not going to get bent out of shape out of all that stuff. I understand the reasons why they do it, but like, if I'm not going to care about that, am I really going to get upset at them shortening the outfield? I wish they wouldn't, but what are you going to do? John Burns says, I still prefer the Gestapo files for Section 31. Okay, I'm not familiar with that. JDC, no, I remember Gotham by Gaslight because that's just a one shot. That's just an Elseworlds. The occasional one shot Elseworlds is okay. Again, as long as it's a good enough idea. I read Gotham by Gaslight a long time ago. I remember thinking it was all right. I don't think I disliked it, but again, like it's, I'm not automatically interested in it just because it's different. If there's a solid idea behind it, if there's a reason that it's different, if the difference plays into the story and has a point to it, then that's one thing. But if it's just, like Superman Red Sun is a good example. I thought Superman Red Sun was a very good Elseworld story. Because it wasn't just what if Superman crash landed in the Soviet Union? Like it was that concept, but it went in a direction that meant something, that had a point, and I thought was well done. So again, that's a one shot or a mini series. That's not like an ongoing series. So like if they did a Gotham by Gaslight monthly series where it was like a new issue every month, I probably wouldn't read it because I'm not into it. Devil in the Dark. Oh man, about favorite TOS episodes. Devil in the Dark, baby. Yeah, absolutely. Great episode. Yeah, sorry, Carlisle. I went back and looked, and your super chat didn't show up for me in here either. Sorry about that. Well, just ask it again in a regular chat, and I'll make sure I catch it and answer it. John Collins says, as a Christian, there are two parts about it I don't like. When I pay tithes, I don't have enough money to give to other causes, which I would like to. Also, preachers often don't preach the entire Bible. I mean, this is me as an atheist talking, so take it for what it's worth. This is a heathen saying this, but I mean, you could just give the money to the other causes. Like, it's your money that you could just choose. If there's another cause you would rather give it to than your church, you could just give it to that cause. But again, I mean, that's just me as an atheist talking. It might be a different decision-making process for you. Oh, Maisie Rose says, hi from Scotland. This is my first live, but I've been enjoying your videos. Your chat are a lovely bunch. Love the no shit take and no F's given attitude here. Well, welcome. I'm glad you could make it. Glad you could be here. Yeah, we do have a good, the regulars here who come to my live streams are a good bunch of people. I'm very, very happy. I'm very fortunate to have such a cool audience. Yeah. Okay, Carlisle says, I recently watched your Relax, It's Only a Movie video, and another similar phrase I wish people would stop using is project name ruined my childhood. Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day, and I was going to do a follow-up video to that video this week, but I didn't have time to do it, so I think I might try to do it and have it out for Monday, because I don't have an idea for a Monday video this coming week. But it touches on that concept of people saying such and such ruined my childhood, right? And I realized when I was a teenager, I wrote a movie review of Batman and Robin. And I used very similar language to that. I really didn't, I mean, I still don't like Batman and Robin, but at the tender age of 17, I saw Batman and Robin as a huge Batman fan, and oh boy, I really didn't like it. I really didn't like it. And I wrote a really savage review of it for a website that I had at the time. And I think I said in the review, like, Joel Schumacher and Akiva Goldsman, you ruined Batman. You ruined my favorite hero. I didn't say they ruined my childhood, but I said, you ruined my favorite hero. It was very over the top language, right? I was 17. In my defense, I was 17. It's still a fucking ridiculous thing to say about a character that has been published in multiple monthly comics for decades and has been featured in a bunch of movies and a bunch of TV shows. Like, to say that one movie, regardless of how shitty it is, and Batman and Robin is a shitty fucking movie, but regardless of how shitty it is, to say it ruined my favorite character, like, get a grip, dude. And I have since come to that realization. And I would say that to my younger self, as well as to anyone else currently around who would say such a thing. Oh, that movie with ruined my favorite. Oh, it ruined Star Wars. It ruined Star Trek. Blah, 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 blah. You'll notice, as much as I do not like Lower Decks, you have never heard me say Lower Decks ruined Star Trek. You've never heard me say Lower Decks ruined my childhood. You've never heard me say Star Trek Picard ruined Star Trek or ruined my childhood or should never have been made. Or the people who made it should be, pelted with rotten fruit or whatever. It's a show I didn't like. And I'm not going to pretend that I did like it. And I'm not going to mince words when I talk about why I didn't like it. But at the end of the day, it's a show I didn't like. It didn't ruin anything for me. All the stuff I do like is still there. So yeah, Batman and Robin ruined my childhood. No, it didn't. Batman and Robin ruined Batman. No, it didn't. It's a bad movie with a character I love. I can go watch other movies that feature that same character that are a lot better. I can go read comic books that feature that character that are a lot better. I can watch TV shows that feature that character that are a lot. Nothing has been ruined. Nothing has been taken away from me. I remember saying this in 2009 when the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie came out. And there's a guy who runs a Star Trek fan site who takes this shit way too fucking seriously. And he was one of the super fans. He wasn't among the most aggressively toxic, but he still had this attitude of like, oh my God, they erased the prime timeline, right? The time travel plot in Star Trek 2009 when they traveled back and changed so now all of the Star Trek we loved never happened. That's terrible. And I was like, none of it ever happened. It's a fictional show. And those TV shows and movies that you say were erased, which of course now, even canonically, we know nothing was erased because they've continued to produce new shows set in the original timeline, the non-Kelvin timeline. So that argument goes completely out the window. But at the time, even, the idea of, oh, they've erased, now it's as though Star Trek, the original series, and all those movies, and TNG and Deep Space Nine and Voyager, it's as though it all never happened. It never happened anyway. It's fiction, dude. And it's still there. If you want to go watch Star Trek, the original series, you can watch it. Like, those movies didn't erase anything. It's still there. Go watch it. Are you really going to tell me that your favorite episode of Star Trek isn't good anymore because you think some movie, quote unquote, erased it? What the fuck is wrong with you? Get a fucking grip. So yeah, the video I'm going to do possibly for Monday, something along those lines. Something along those lines. But yeah, the whole such and such ruined my childhood. Fuck you. Get a grip. Go back and watch the thing you liked when you were a child that you liked better than this thing you just watched. It's still there. It still exists. You can still watch it and enjoy it. What the fuck? John Burns says, going to watch Alastair Sims' A Christmas Carol movie. Great. My favorite Christmas Carol. Just catching up on some super chats that came in while I was ranting. Kirak 2011 says, speaking of Christmas Carol stories, have you seen the Henry Winkler version, An American Christmas Carol? Yes, a long time ago. But yes, I have seen it. Carlisle says it's when grown adults make comments like that get under me. Oh, yeah, I agree. When grown-ups start talking like 17-year-old me, yeah, that's a big problem. Kirog also says, another super chat, by the way, Steve, which is better, Star Wars Episode 5 or Star Trek 2 The Wrath? Just say Empire Strikes Back. Star Wars Episode 5 is a terrible title for a movie. The Empire Strikes Back is a fucking great title for a movie, so that's why I call it that. But Empire's a better movie than Wrath of Khan. I'm comfortable saying that. Empire's a better movie than... I mean, I love Wrath of Khan, as I think everybody knows. I love Wrath of Khan. It's a fucking great movie. But if I had to choose, I think Empire's a better movie than Wrath of Khan. Isaiah Taylor with a super chat. Not gonna lie, Alicia Silverstone suiting in that bat suit. Now that's something I would pay to see. Also, thoughts of a new X-Files series, new characters, etc. I mean, well, it's something I did pay to see because I paid to see Batman and Robin. Thoughts of a new X-Files series. I mean, the concept is solid enough that you could do that. I'll tell you what, I would rather see a new show with a similar idea. Like, I would rather, like, think about how many cop shows there are. And, like, not every cop show is a spinoff of Dragnet, you know? So somebody could come up with an idea for an X-Files-like show with a similar concept that involved cops or federal agents or private detectives or somebody. You know, fucking Kolchak the Night Stalker did it even before the X-Files did. But somebody investigating paranormal cases, that you could have like an X-Files-like show, but it wouldn't be the X-Files. It would be something like the X-Files, but it would be its own thing. I would love to see that because it's a great idea. It's a great concept for a show. John Burns says, did the 2009 movie make ships irrelevant? Beaming. Well, that's another thing. That's another thing people were complaining about. Oh, Scotty came up with a formula that allowed Spock and Kirk to beam onto the Enterprise after it had been warping away from the planet for hours. Like, so why have ships? Because it's a fucking movie, man. Don't worry about it. Like, they used it for a plot point to get the characters from point A to point B so the movie could keep going. Just don't fucking worry. Stop treating this shit like it's real. It's not real. Watch the movie that's in front of you. Enjoy it or don't enjoy it based on its merit. But don't be like one of these fucking overly obsessed nerds that's like, but everything has to make perfect sense. Everything has to agree with everything. There can't be any contradictions. Yeah, it's fiction. It's not real. Watch the episode that's on this week. Watch the movie that just came out. Like, do you like it or not? Or do you care about the story? Do you care about the characters? Do you care what happens? Did it mean anything to you? Did it make you think about anything? Did it make you feel anything? Who gives a fuck but if they can transport onto a ship like that in this movie, why can't they just do that in every movie? I don't fucking know, because the writer of the next movie didn't want to do that. Who fucking cares? But yes, that was definitely a complaint that people were making as well. Some Random Geek says, no, Steve, you don't understand. There is now only one Ghostbusters movie. The 2016 Ghostbusters replaces the existence of any Ghostbusters before, even the cartoon. Yeah, exactly. It's that exact same mentality. Like you, I happen to think the 2016 Ghostbusters is a pretty good movie. Like, I watched it and laughed my fucking ass off. I thought it was good. But even if I had hated it, I can go back and watch the original Ghostbusters anytime I want. It's still going to be good. I'm still going to like it. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of the newer Ghostbusters movies. I'm not the biggest fan of Afterlife or Frozen Empire. Although I did think Frozen Empire was a little better than I thought it would be. Like, I thought Frozen Empire was way better than Afterlife. I still don't really I can't really come up with a creative reason for any of those movies to exist. And I kind of wish that they would just burn down that fucking firehouse and have somebody take a sledgehammer to Ecto 1 just to force them to do something else. But no, like, those movies don't prevent, like, they haven't ruined anything for me. I can still go back and watch just like Ghostbusters 2. Not nearly as, I mean, there's, mixed opinions on it nowadays. At the time, everybody hated Ghostbusters 2. There was a lot, people don't remember. Ghostbusters 2 has kind of been embraced more recently. People have kind of gone back and reevaluated it and decided that they like it more than it was reviewed when it came out. But when Ghostbusters 2 came out, it was almost universally rejected. People thought it was fucking terrible. I don't remember anybody saying, oh, Ghostbusters is ruined now. Because just watch the first one if that's the one you like. It's still there. Right? Like, fuck. John Burns with a super chat. Kirk lands on a planet near a cave, like Luigi finding a CEO to shoot. Oh, how convenient. Yeah, well, in Star Trek, yeah, there's a lot of convenience, of course. Kirk gets ejected from the Enterprise by Spock onto a planet where old Spock and Scotty just so happen to be. Now, yes, that is incredibly contrived, convenient writing. Of course it is. It's not exactly what I would call good writing, but one of the strengths of that movie is that even though the plot has really preposterous contrivances like that, it moves well enough, and it's, at least for me anyway, it's entertaining enough while you're watching it that you end up not really caring about that stuff. Like, yes, it's a fucking massive plot contrivance that young Captain Kirk just so happens to wind up on the same planet where old Spock from the future happens to be, so they can meet. And Scotty, and hey, look who else is here. The one guy working at this fucking, Arctic research station on this ice moon in the middle of nowhere. Oh, look who it is. It's Scotty. What are the odds? What a small fucking universe. Like, that could easily have been incredibly annoying because it's really fucking lazy. But it's also very entertaining and a very likable movie. And you just get caught up in it. And you say, you know what? I'm not going to fucking worry about this. I'm just going to watch this movie and be entertained, and it has that quality that it brings you up and it pulls you along like that. And that is a mark of good filmmaking. It's bad writing, but it's knowing bad writing. It's like bad writing, but done in a way where you're like, look, this isn't great, but we've got this. We can pull this off, and I kind of admire that. Let me see some more questions here. Dana says, what if we called it Star Trek movie number 2? Yeah. Exactly. Or if they decided if they did the Star Wars thing and tried to retroactively retitle stuff, because Star Wars is such a shitty title for a movie. Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope is such a much better title for a movie than Star Wars, right? The Empire Strikes Back. No. It's not The Empire Strikes Back. That's a bad title. It's Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. Oh, Carlisle, this is a good point. Plus, the new stuff that person A didn't like may have been person B's childhood. That's how I feel. Yeah, and the Star Wars prequels are a great example of that. I'm not a fan of the Star Wars prequels at all. I think they're fucking rotten movies. But people who saw them as kids, and some people who saw them as adults as well, really like them. I don't get it. I don't agree, but I don't begrudge them that. Like, I don't think that those movies should not exist. They're movies that I think are bad. That's okay. There's lots of movies I think are bad. And again, if I'm talking about them, if I'm asked about them, if I'm making a video about them or making a review of them, I'm not going to say that I like them. I'm not going to tell you anything I don't honestly think. If I'm writing a thing about a movie I think is bad, I'm going to tell you I think it's fucking bad. But I'm not going to tell you it ruined my life or it ruined other movies that I do like. That's childish. That's kid stuff. You know? I don't like the prequels. The prequels didn't ruin Star Wars for me. You know, I didn't like the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. That didn't ruin Star Wars for me. Like, come on, get a fucking grip. You know, I didn't like Picard. That didn't ruin TNG for me. What the fuck? Sean O'Sullivan says, which reimagining would you prefer, Sliders or Andromeda? Sliders. I never watched Andromeda, so I don't really have a dog in that fight. But it would be interesting if you have to reimagine something. Sliders is a good concept. I watched Sliders when it was originally on. I kind of was bummed when they abandoned the dimension of the week format and got more into like their own kind of silly lore based stuff. Like, I like the format of they go to a different parallel Earth every week, and it's like, and and you can kind of tell like the parallel Earths are based on particular points in history that went a different way. Like, this world is this way because in this world JFK wasn't assassinated or something like that. Like, I thought that was a really interesting premise, and they kind of got away from that in the later seasons, and I lost interest in the show. So I would like, if somebody's gonna do like a reboot or a reimagining of Sliders, I would be interested if they would stick to the original concept, because I think that concept has some legs to it yet. Okay, John Burns with a super chat. I remember a review of Ghostbusters 2016, which had the local Ghostbusters cosplayers group. They also reviewed the protest groups of Ghostbusters movies. Fucking protest groups of Ghostbusters movies. Oh my God. Travis Boyle. Okay, let me talk about this real quick, and then I'll do my wrap up because we're past 8 o'clock here. So I'll talk about the Superman trailer for Travis because I think he missed it when I was talking about it earlier. And then I'll do my wrap up, and then I'll answer some final questions, and then we'll call it an evening. I liked the Superman trailer a lot. I mean, I don't want to get carried away because it is just a trailer, and we haven't seen the movie yet. But as a trailer, I thought it was really good. I was already interested in the movie. I was already hyped about the movie based on knowing who's in it and who's writing it and directing it. And also having been watching Creature Commandos, which has been excellent. If you're not watching Creature Commandos on Max, it is fantastic. And it's also written by James Gunn, and it's just been tremendous. I highly recommend it. But no, the trailer was terrific. I like that his Superman costume looks like a costume. It looks like clothes. It looks like cloth. It's not like snakeskin or some kind of weird alien lizard material that was like, grafted onto him on his ship or whatever the fuck. I like that Crypto's in it, and he's a fucking dog with a cape. Rachel looks fantastic as Lois. David looks fantastic as Soups and as Clark. Fucking Lex looks amazing. Nicholas Hoult as Lex looks. I was like, oh my God, it's Lex Luthor. Like, that was my first thought when you see him in the holy shit, it's Lex Luthor. Like, he looks, it looks really good. It had a lot of emotion. It looked like it has a very deep, like, humanistic view of Superman. You see Superman saves more people. Superman saves more people in that trailer than he saves in fucking Zack Snyder's entire movies. So that was nice, the trailer looks good. I'm excited to see the movie. I hope the movie lives up to the trailer, and I'm optimistic. So yeah, those are my takes on the on the trailer. I'm sorry if I missed your super chat, Kirak. Oh yeah, you Phantom Menace hater, you. You know what? When I saw the Phantom Menace in theaters, I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I wasn't like, oh my God, it's the greatest thing ever. But I was a little surprised by how much people fucking hated it. I didn't think it was good. I thought it was mostly just kind of boring. My opinion on the Phantom Menace hasn't really changed since the first time I watched it, because I mean, I watched it when it came out in theaters, and then I think we got it on home video. We got it on VHS after it came out on VHS, and I watched it a few more times like that over the years. And then because I didn't really like it, I didn't watch it again for a long time, and I watched it several years ago now when Jason and I did it for late seating. And my opinion is basically the same. Like, it's just kind of a misbegotten, poorly conceived, underwritten, really boring movie with some really cluttered, muddled visuals, like a lot of sort of digital noise. But that lightsaber fight at the end is fucking amazing. Like, I remember before Phantom Menace came out, the big hyped scene was the pod race. Like, everybody was saying, wait till you see this pod race. This pod race is amazing. I saw the movie. The pod race made me want to take a nap. I thought the pod race was incredibly boring. It seemed like it took forever. It was so tedious. I did not give a single fuck about the pod race. But when we got to that lightsaber duel, that 3-way lightsaber duel with the two of them versus Darth Maul, fuck yes. That's still the best thing about the movie. It's a fucking awesome fight scene. And other than that, I could lose the whole fucking movie. I don't give a shit. But that that lightsaber duel was amazing. But no, the amount of vitriol that it attracts is way over the top. All the prequels. I don't think any of the prequels are good movies at all. Like, other than the lightsaber duel I just talked about, I don't think there's anything in any of the prequels worth watching at all. But the level of hyperbolic hate that they get is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Are they the worst films ever made? Like, none of them is even close to the worst movie ever made. It's ridiculous. Anyway, Pedro Morale. I hope I'm pronouncing that somewhat right. New subscriber, sub this month. Nice channel all around. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, so I'm going to turn away from the live chat for a moment and do my wrap up to end the show, and then I'll come back and look for any final questions. So if you have any final questions you want to ask me before we end the show, go ahead and throw them in the chat right now, and I'll try to catch up with them as much as I can. But for now, I don't forget, if you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and you want to help me to continue to do it, you can support this channel in a couple of ways. One is by becoming a patron by going to patreon.com/Steve Shives, or you can also become a channel member by clicking the join button. And either way, if you become a patron or a channel member at any level from $1 a month on up, one of the benefits that you unlock for yourself is you can submit questions ahead of time for these twice monthly Ask Away live streams that I do. The Monday before I do a Friday Ask Away, I will post a call for questions to my paid members and paid Patreon patrons, and you get a link you can click to a form that will let you submit your question. And those are the questions that I always answer in the first part of every Ask Away show. I could not do this without my wonderful patrons and channel members. So thank you all so much who are currently patrons or members, and even a few of you who are patrons and members. I don't ask for that, but I do appreciate it. There's a few of you that do that. Thank you very much. I could not do this without you. Thank you so much. And to those of you who are considering it, I would encourage you to do that if you can afford it. And my YouTube videos mean something to you because it really, really helps me out. Also, if you enjoy my YouTube stuff, don't forget that I am a regular on a couple of awesome podcasts that are a part of the Lemmy Listen family of podcasts. One of those podcasts is Late Seating, the movie review podcast that I've mentioned a time or two during the course of the evening tonight. That is myself and Jason Harding, and we take a fresh look at classic films and see if they deserve whatever their reputation is, whether it's good or bad. And our new episode is a special Christmas episode where we're not reviewing a movie And we're not just reviewing anything. We're doing a watch along, a commentary track of the classic Christmas TV special, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So it's just like a riff tracks where you listen to our show. Jason will tell you 3, 2, 1, play, and you watch Rudolph while you listen to our show, and you can hear us interact with it and make jokes about it and comment on it. And it's a lot of fun. That's what we do it with a different thing every year for Christmas, and it's always one of the highlights of the year for me. And then after it's done, we review it and talk about it, and hopefully you enjoy it. So that's the new episode of Late Seating. And also, I am a cast member on the Ensign's Log, which is the Star Trek themed comedy podcast that I do alongside Jason and also DanaCole, who is in the chat with us, and also our newest cast member, Ananda, who has been a wonderful addition to the show. And we play original characters of our own creation that exist in the same fictional world as Star Trek. And our things, our stories, and our characters kind of do our own thing with stuff from the Star Trek show kind of happening in the background, not occasionally crossing over with what we do, but usually it's just kind of hanging, us off there in the corner. And we are currently on Deep Space Nine and living our lives, doing the best we can. And it's a really fun show to do. We all have a blast when we record it. And hopefully especially if you are a Star Trek fan who enjoys poking fun at Star Trek and kind of the funny side of Star Trek, I think you will enjoy the Ensign's Log. So give that a listen as well. Links are in the description. And of course, please always remember, Some Random Geek was posting the individual links in the live chat earlier. Please make use of those. And also charitylinks.page has all of them collected in one space. Those are links to help out friends of ours who need a helping hand, who have maybe some trouble paying the bills, keeping the lights on, putting food on the table, paying their medical bills, whatever their situation is. They need a helping hand. They need some extra cash. And if you are in a position, especially this time of year, where want is keenly felt and abundance rejoices, as someone said once upon a time, if you can afford to help out somebody in need, please consider doing that. And please consider making use of the links listed in charitylinks.page to help out some friends of ours who need a helping hand. And now let me return for a final few minutes to the live chat to see some final questions. I know there's at least one super chat in here. From Kirok, not even Revenge of the Sith. I don't like Revenge of the Sith. I don't think it's a good movie. I think it's probably the best of the prequels. Of the 3 prequels, I think it's the best, but that doesn't mean I think it's a good movie. There's a fight scene in Revenge of the Sith that accomplishes exactly nothing. I think it's one of the fights between Anakin and Obi-Wan and some of the bad guys, and they're at like a landing pad, and they have like a fight, and like the bad guys come in, they fight, and the bad guys leave, and it's like it accomplishes nothing. There is no reason it does nothing to move the story forward in any way at all. It is a completely pointless scene that should have been cut out. That should have been cut out of the script. That shouldn't even have been filmed, and yet somehow it's there. And to me, that's like the prequel trilogy as a whole. It's just a whole bunch of stuff that means absolutely nothing, that we don't need to know, that we don't need to see, doesn't need to be here, that just never should have, yeah. But a lot of people like it, and good for them. Dana says, it's the worst movie that I went in thinking I was going to like. Yeah, that always sucks. That always sucks when you go into a movie thinking it's going to be good and then it turns out to be a pile of shit. That can be deflating. Not life ruining, but it can be deflating. Tammy says, what is, in your opinion, the worst movie ever? Ooh, that's tough. What is the worst movie ever? I mean, there was a time when I would have said Batman and Robin. I don't think that's the case anymore. I don't know. What is the worst movie ever? It's really tough. I mean, I really, really... Oof. It's I don't know. It would have, because it has to, for me, it has to be a movie that is not only a bad movie, but a movie that I don't enjoy. Because there's a lot of really bad movies that I love. Like, a really popular choice years ago was Plan 9 from Outer Space. which is a horrible movie, but it's so much fun to watch. Like, how can I say that's the worst movie ever made when I have such joy from watching it? I mean, to me, it would be like a Michael Bay movie, you know, something like Armageddon, or maybe like I really, really, really don't like the live action Spawn movie from 1997. That is such a rotten fucking movie. That would be really high on my list of worst movies ever. Like, it's just fucking terrible. 300. God, what a fucking awful movie. And offensive, like just politically and morally offensive, as well as just being a rotten fucking movie. I don't know. One of those. It's tough to pick just one because there are so many. But for me, it would have to be a movie that's not just bad, but a movie that I do not enjoy watching. Moulin Rouge. There's one for you, Dana. See, Air One Fire, I would have said Birth of a Nation, and Birth of a Nation. No, not The Wicker Man. The Wicker Man is great. Again, it's terrible, but it's so much fun to watch. I assume you mean the Nicolas Cage one, not the original one from the 70s. Birth of a Nation is morally reprehensible, is absolutely repugnant. And there's no reason that anybody other than like a film student or a history buff needs to watch it. But I don't know if it's the worst movie ever made, because it is legitimately important for technical and artistic reasons, even though in terms of its content, it's utterly reprehensible. And unless I need to watch it to do like a show about it or something, like I have no intention of ever watching it again, despite its, you know, historical and technical and artistic qualities. Like there's no reason to, it's like watching a Leni Riefenstahl movie. It's like, there's no reason to watch that. Yes, there are technical, you know, there are good things about it if you can divorce yourself from the utter disgusting content, but that content is there and there's no reason to watch it, you know? So yeah, I considered saying Birth of a Nation, but I'm not sure if I would say Birth of a Nation. Kirok says, worst film, Star Trek V. Yeah, no, not Star Trek V. Nemesis is way worse than Star Trek V. Nishik Taki says, I can't sit through Birth of a Nation. I don't blame you. I mean, and you shouldn't have to. Yeah. Andrea, Olympia. Olympia is the Riefenstahl movie that is the one that I think gives people, because you can write off Triumph of the Will. Like Triumph of the Will is obvious propaganda. And you can say like, well, that's fucking gross. That's like a Nazi propaganda movie. Olympia is a Nazi propaganda movie too, but it's not as overt as Triumph of the Will, you know? And yes, it does have some historical importance. It is the first sort of, at least at that level, at that scope, it's the first like significant sports documentary. And photographically, cinematically, like there are some really cool, really innovative stuff that she does in that movie. But, you know, there's the Third Reich of it all. So, you know, again, much like Birth of a Nation, like unless you're a film student or you have some specific reason you need to watch it or want to watch it, like there's no reason for anybody to watch it. You can, it's okay. You know? Batman v Superman is really fucking bad. Like, I don't know if it would be on my list of worst movies. Like if I was to, yeah, it would be on my list of worst movies. I don't know if it's the worst, but it's pretty fucking bad. It's utterly fucking joyless. Like it's just so drab and joyless and full of itself. Oh my God. And ponderous and like, you know, faux philosophical and faux profound. It's just fucking awful. Yeah, it would be on the list. Simon Moody says a shot for shot Psycho remake. Yeah, I mean, it is pointless. It is pointless, but it's an interesting experiment. You know, like I think that's why Gus Van Sant did it. He thought, I wonder how this will turn out if I do like as best as I can. If I do a shot for shot remake of Psycho, I wonder how that'll work. Like it was an experiment. Again, like you watch it once just to see it and be like, okay, no reason to ever watch it again. Cause yeah, it's just kind of, oh, okay. That was interesting, I guess. Yeah. Like, just go watch Psycho. Go watch the original, you know? Anyway, all right, we can talk about bad movies all night, but I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out and asking such awesome questions and watching the stream. I appreciate it. This is the last live stream that I'm going to be doing before Christmas and New Year's. I'm going to have other videos come out. Actually, no, we have our end of month patron and member hangout on the Sunday before New Year's. So we're going to do that. But this is the last Ask Away that I'll be doing before Christmas and New Year's. And Dana and I are taking the next 2 weeks off for Trek Reluctantly because we do those on Wednesday, and Christmas and New Year's are on Wednesdays this year. So this is the last time I'll see you in one of these before Christmas and New Year's. So if you celebrate, have a happy Christmas and have a happy New Year. And I'll see you in 2025. Thanks so much for everything, everybody. Take care. Have a good night.